There's a few things that have happened this week that have made me start to think a little bit about some of the advancements with AI models and how this is having implications to the way we're going to be. And we obviously have this election going on this year in the US. And I think this is just starting to play out a bit about that, where AI is getting mentioned a lot more. Trump was talking about the fact that Harris had these AI generated crowds and so forth. And video that I saw today, or maybe it was yesterday, just around the advancements in those AI generated images. And there's been a shift towards that being more realistic. Before they were all shiny and nice. Now they look like photos that are taken off someone's phone in a real situation. I just want to show you, this is what used to be the AI generated images from Midjourney, and they were great, and you could kind of tell that they were professional or they weren't real images, or they were, whether they were off, Shutterstock, or they were generated that way. I think that was great, but what's happening now, and what made me think a little bit more, was we're starting to get images that more look like this, and they look like real people, and the environment, they look like they're taken off a phone, and you start to get this real look of what, there's some maybe slight detections of that, but you have to be pretty smart to tell, what that is. And so for me, this is playing out more and more, and I keep reading and seeing things where I start to see what does this mean for us, and how are we gonna tell what's real, given all of the various political and other situations that are going on right now. And it just really started me to think about that. We start to have this generated imagery, generated content. And I don't know, have you heard of the dead internet theory? It did make me think. It's sort of thinking about the fact that actually the internet is going to be a real place where everything generated, or there's going to be a lot of crap on there, basically generated by bots, generated by AI, this theory started me thinking about that a bit more, and just with this quality, what the implications are. And yeah, I just think that with all these elections, all these other events that are going on, this is going to be misused, and how we deal with that. I guess I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. But it's that quality, that shift in it going from being something shiny that you can tell to being, I struggle, like I say. And I think, once again, this is where we are now. Where are we going to be? So if we see this as the internet is going to be flooded with this, how do we combat that? And what's your sort of thoughts on how you make decisions even going forward?
So I think there's two different things to talk about here. It reminds me two things that happened this week. So I think I was either checking a recipe, or I had a question, or my daughter asked me a question, and instead of going to Google, I went to ChatGPT to ask it. And she said, my daughter asked, "Why are you going to ChatGPT, not Google?" And I said, well, if I had to do it in Google, I had to go and click on the 10 clicks until I get to the answer, and I will see all these ads, and it will probably be like clickbaits. Why, if I ask ChatGPT, it's like they did it already. That was like the language used. So she said, oh, when you use ChatGPT, it's like they already went to Google, and then they just summarize it for you. It's a really useful way of thinking about it. So that's point number one. The internet, like blogs and articles, it's on a trend of increasingly garbage, attention seeking, ad revenue generated. It is the logical conclusion of the cost of creating content is dropping, and the distribution cost is dropping, and the monetization model is always through traffic. So if that's the game, the winner is going to be the one who has most of the most attention grabbing stuff, and it gets more rewarded for doing more and more attention grabbing garbage. So why would it be high quality content? Like, there's no business model for it it's not rewarded. Point number one. Point number two, when the first realistic pictures of ChatGPT came, what not ChatGPT, LLMs or whatever, language models, synthetic images came out. It's not actually language models, doesn't matter. But actually, the interesting is that once you learn language, a lot of problems can be modeled through language, and then you can train machines to do that. And that's how they do this thing. It's basically the same type of um, thing that the LLM does, but for images. So you should assume already that in a very near future, every video you see is essentially indistinguishable from its other synthetic or real. Period. And I had my boy is 6, and we watched this video, and he had it was Night in a Museum, and he sees a real lion in the movie, and the question becomes: is it a real lion or is it not a real lion, and what does that even mean? So it's a real lion in the world of the movie, but there's no actual lion when they shoot it, and it's like trying to explain that to a 6-year-old, because what he looks 100% real. So take that, and that's going to be the problem of everyone all the time, meaning that we would see a video of our show, and it might have been generated by an AI. So the immediate next thought for me is that, well, how will we distinguish reality from, complete fiction? And the answer is that it will become harder. But is it a lost cause? I don't think so. And I think that part of the way in which this would evolve, I mean, I'm just making a forecast into, like, in a world where every video generated by anyone can be fake, what do? Well, you make a law that that it is on the device that shows you that video needs to have a feature that tells you if it's been verifiable or not verifiable as real.
Yeah.
And this is technically possible with really clever use of cryptography and hardware, actually. So it takes all the way to the hardware. So then you will see a picture, but of Kamala Harris doing something horrible, and you would say, "Oh, that's just the Trump campaign." And then now you watch it and you still can't believe it. But in the future, there will be like a little operating system level, hardware level indicator on the picture that actually proves or disproves whether or not it's verifiable. Basically tells you verifiable. A little bit like the blue check that Twitter used to have, that thanks to Elon got dropped. But that was the idea of that's a verifiable account. And I think we are entering the world where verifying files with cryptographic elements is essential for society, not a nice to have.
Well, that's what I'm starting to get towards in terms of this is happening once again quicker in the quality, and how we consume information is really important. How you make decisions, and the dead internet theory, I think, is quite interesting to talk about that in terms of, are we going to have a cesspool of information that you can't trust? And I think there's going to have to have this new trust model. Interestingly, there are some ways, and in fact, there are some ways with the Anthropic model that I've seen that you can upload images and it'll give you an idea of whether it's AI generated or not. And they have some things around. I'll dig that out. But there's some ways to detect if the way they've done is they have an open. Some people have used the models to be able to use it for detection. But all these things are a bit of a race, and I think that's where I guess, yeah. One thing interesting you raised was around your new way of, it's not new, but your preferred mode of operating in terms of using an LLM rather than using search to get your answers. And I think that's what I think is also may become a really interesting way, and probably is a threat to Google search, clearly. But I think this, the way we're using the current way we're using the internet, I think will become a bit of a problem, because there's going to be a lot of stuff out there that isn't really what it is. And so, yeah, anyway, I thought that was interesting. What else? I mean, so I don't know if you saw this week, Anthropic also, they talked a little bit about their prompt caching. But basically what's happened is Anthropic, the makers of Claude, introduced a way to cache the way that people use their models. And I think Google do similar things, but what they've done is they have a feature which allows developers to reduce the cost of the way they call these models. So essentially, when there's a large amount of information that you would need to prompt a model to be useful, they're allowing people to essentially cache it or store that away, so they start with that point. But what that's meant for people using the models is it's a 90% reduction in costs, And that to me is huge for them to be able to do that and offer that, as well as making it a lot quicker. And so, what this means is, once again, we're starting to be able to use these models in different ways. Some of the problems that we have about using them from a cost point of view start to become, a bit more usable. So there's more use cases that these features can be used. So I don't know if you saw that, what your sort of thoughts are on that. But for me, what this is starting to show is we're getting evolutions on how the models can be used. There's quicker ways, cheaper ways, which opens it up for some of the startups to use these models in different ways and making them more cost effective. And I think you've talked before about the business model of AI. It's not the same as SaaS, but yeah, what's your sort of thoughts on seeing that working?
What we're seeing here is the technology going through its learning curve. It's called learning curve. Recently, there was Elon Musk posted a picture of the third generation of the engine of his of
I'm
the
always worried when you
space.
say that he posted a picture because that could be lots of
It's
things. But
true.
yeah, sorry.
And
Yeah.
it's this third generation of the engine of the space rockets, and it's way stronger, way better features, but the design is like you obviously in front of your eyes. You can just see the evolution of like a messy engine of version one, intermediate version two, and like unbelievably well designed version three that's powerful, better, and so forth. That thing there's in technology is called a learning curve. What it is basically the engineers who build the first version learned so much about what they're building that the next version is better, and the next version better, and the next version is better. And that's why if you spend a lot of time tracking this evolution of technology from how cars evolved from the old cars to the current cars, and how airplanes evolved, and how computers evolved, and so forth, you just know that like by the 20th iteration of some system, it will be optimized to the nth degree, so to speak. So it comes at no surprise whatsoever to know that um, the cost of query is dropping, the cost of training is going to be dropping, because we are optimizing every part of this technical stack at someone has an economic incentive to optimize it, right? So it's like my mom is still upset that we started having computers at home in '91, my first computer, and she didn't understand why I needed what I needed for, and she asked, "Will it do the dishes? Will it do me a coffee?" And I said, "Well, it doesn't do dishes of coffee, but it do all these other things." Recently, I sent her the video of like the Figure One, the robotic company that partnered with OpenAI, and I said, "It's coming soon. It's going to do the dishes so soon." But it took like 30 years or something, for 35 years, and we still doesn't do the dishes. There's a lot of other things. So you bet. This is what a good bet is, that models are going to be way cheaper to that's like also as an investor you have to do this. You have to look at where it is now, and it's like things that don't make sense now. Where's the trend? They will make sense in the future. That's an investment or investment proposition. So business model that can't work right now but might be a big deal later, that's an investable value proposition, right? So my reaction to this is that you bet that in the cost of inference is going to drop, cost of the performance of the model is going to increase. It's scary if you are thinking a lot about possible harms to society, and you can kind of become like a AI doomer. But it's also I think the one thing you need to do is to be hopeful. And it's like a personality trait. You have to be a hopeful person, believe in the human spirit, so to speak. But yes, those things are going to drop, and as a result, the business models are going to be improving. So I think that's a very positive point. And I did hear the other week we talked about it. That they're forecasting 300 billion to train the AI into the future. And I think that they're talking about basically training not just language, training on the entire YouTube catalog. Okay, think about it for a second. Every piece of data out there, training on video, which is like way more higher bandwidth than text. So so how does the fact that Anthropic are coming and saying we're going to drop the cost of inference because we have all sorts of optimization going in there, and OpenAI or someone on their behalf saying, "Oh, the future cost of training is 300 billion." So if the cost is dropping, they will make less money, will they? And then will there be an economic incentive to spend 300 billion on training an AI?
Well, look, I would argue going to increase people using it because it's more cost effective and they'll do more with what they're doing. So, look, my key point was really if we think about this from an implication point of view, and I saw this week at a event that I was talking at. I had someone come up and show me their AI agent that was taking servicing calls, and it would answer a call, it would take appointments, book them in, people you talk off your phone. The point of this is that the enabling of that with the right latency, the speed, and the cost to do that, those things become more and more viable. And so we start to go, well, hold on, we're going to have people being AI support agents will become more and more viable, and the performance and the cost will be even almost like a no-brainer. And so I guess that's the sort of implication I start to see with that, and how we're using this differently. So look, I also just wanted to touch on, there was something funny that happened this week. I don't know if you saw, there was a Senate committee meeting in Australia, and they had someone from Google talking about AI and AI safety, and it was quite funny. And in the middle of the actual hearing, the woman talked from Google, the Google chatbot itself interrupted and started talking, and they all freaked out about, hold on.
That encompasses topics such as data protection and adversarial
Let's
testing.
explore responsible AI across the life cycle. That's a great statement. It highlights the...
There is Google stepping in to be responsible on my side.
Can I ask what interrupted you earlier when you were talking and we heard a voice? Is AI helping you on this call? Have you got a screen there that's helping with answers?
I do wish we had an AI screen for that purpose.
What's going on here? Are you getting all your information from your own little being prompted and so forth around that whilst they were talking about AI safety? I thought it was quite funny, but I thought it was hilarious just to see that play out, and just the fact that then Senator Pocock was just questioning all of what she was saying. Is that you, or is it the AI that? But I think it was quite ironic that it happened.
But does it matter? That, like, if the answer is a good answer, does it matter who gave it? I don't know. I think it's a interesting question.
Well, there's a whole range of things on that topic that we could cover off another day. Is that people are valuing things less if it's AI generated. Having said that, I was reading about a comedian at I think it was at Edinburgh, one of the comedy festivals, where their whole routine was AI generated, and they went out and they did that, and they talked about it kind of worked, but they were generating half of it. They worked in partnership. So you're right. That's where we are going as well. It doesn't matter. That's what our questions will start to be. My daughter always says, anytime I send her anything, she goes, "Oh, that's AI." She always goes, "I don't want to read any AI generated." But there's a combo, I think, that's always there. So look, we're gonna have to do a short one today because I'm gonna have to run off.
So this wraps up today's show for This Week in AI. If you're interested to know more, don't forget to subscribe and follow us. We run an AI investment fund, early stage seed, pre-seed companies. If you've got a cool company, let us know. We'd like to hear from you. And if you're interested in investing in the fund, talk to us.
See you later.
See you later.